the Nagpur Arthroscopy Society, and Dr. Sonar for inviting me to speak over here on ACL repair and augmentation. I hope you can hear things properly and you can see things. Yeah, Vikram?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So repair and augmentation. Let us first, one time around 2017, following a fall from a staircase, injured his knee, seemed to have a isolated ACL injury where his pivot was only mildly positive. At that point of time, since it was an isolated injury, we had a dilemma whether we should be conserving it and waiting for, seeing how it sort of progresses, or should we, since he's a young guy, go ahead and reconstruct, or as a matter of fact, repair. Now, when repair came to our mind, we looked back at the historical perspective of a repair, and we knew that it was performed probably 120 years ago. It was popularized at that point of time, later on in the 1970s and 80s by O'Donoghue, etc. However, Figgin and his partner, they did a lot of ACL repairs on military personnel. And basically, at the end of it, they came out with a very landmark paper. And this paper, they mentioned that almost 65% of those patients really failed over a period of 1.5 to 2 years. And because of this landmark paper, there was a final abandonment of this procedure. And this was then replaced with the ACL reconstruction, which then, as a matter of fact, all of us know, became the gold standard. However, the whole thing was revisited. And I personally feel, and this is the problem with, I think, most of us, is that when we have a failure of, say, 10%, we look at that 10%, 20% of failures in detail, but we do not study as to why those 70, 80% succeeded. And what were those factors that actually allowed these people to succeed? And I think if in case Figgin et al., and there was an editorial to that effect too, that if they would have studied the reasons why those 30, 35% probably did well, the a little bit more different, and people would not have rushed into ACL reconstruction at that point of time. However, we saw recently a few papers in 2015, which was again probably a landmark paper in terms of encouraging results in ACL repair, and this was by Gregory D. Phyllis, and another paper in 2016 by Andreas Imhoff. And both, sort of encouraged us to look at probably ACL repair as a part of management of these patients. And if you were to look at what these papers actually said, is that essentially 15%, 17 in 20 patients of repair did very well, but 20 in ACL reconstructions did very, very well. There was a 15% failure in those particular repaired cases. The Danish registry at that point of time showed that the revision rates was almost 4% in ACL reconstruction as opposed to repair. So that was a very encouraging sort of thing coming out of the Danish registry. And the Reinhardt, etc., did a cumulative results of failure following ACL reconstruction and repair, and found that both were more or less similar. When what we realized was that the short-term results were fairly good as against long-term, and obviously open procedures were not doing as well. And it was actually Nguyen who basically propounded at that point of time that proximal tears behave somehow differently than mid and distal tears. And the reason is because you obviously have a reticular leash of vessels which are there proximally and at the distal portion of the ACL, which grow into the ligament and are known to align themselves. And this is something, the dissections is something that we have seen in these last 5-7 years. Whereas the lesions in the middle portions have less chances of healing. And therefore you would have to probably make your repairs in such a way that you are able to take advantage of this vascularity. And if you were to see how this is basically done, essentially you take multiple bundle stitches. You can take separately for one bundle, you can take it for both the bundles together, depending upon the type of tear that you have. And after having taken these multiple stitches, those sutures can then be put into any type of the fixation device and have this fixed onto the anatomical point on the femur, and increase the healing potential by doing microfractures. So this is essentially the basic way by which the ACL is repaired, of easy procedure. And in our initial pilot study of almost 21 patients whom we sort of followed between 3 months to almost, I think, 18 months to 24 months, we found that we had no infections or failures or reoperations, and that the normal side and the opposite side stability was almost 94% with a good 86.6 Lishon score. So this was very, very encouraging at that point of time. If you look at the results as described, say, by Gregory, okay, you'd find that the failure rate in primary repair is almost 22%, which is actually less than that in reconstruction. So 28% in reconstruction. Overall sort of complications in terms of failure, reoperations, contralateral failure, taking all those into consideration. And if you were to look at the meta-analysis, which was done between 2014 and 2019 of July, which included 13 studies of more than 1,000 patients, the conclusions of these meta-analysis, and this is invariably what happens with meta-analysis, is that the outcomes seem to be promising in terms of an arthroscopic proximal repair of an ACL, but most of the studies were short, they had small follow-ups, and therefore a better data required is what was then concluded following this particular okay. If you were to look at the MRI locations and their incidence, okay, you would realize that the proximal avulsions, that means avulsions which are type 1 tears, more than 90% of the remnant available. This is seen generally in about 16% of patients with ACL tears. The proximal portion, that means the type 2 tears, where 75 to 90% of the remnant is available, these are seen in almost 27% of the patients. Mid-substance tears, where essentially at this point of time, most of us would do only a ACL reconstruction, is seen in almost 52% of the patients. So the ACL repair rate is not some that every patient who has got a tear needs to be repaired. I think that is not. So if you look at the new algorithm, as far as ACL management is concerned, we are looking at ACL preservation. So either you preserve these type 1 and type 2 tears with the help of either a repair with or without an internal brace, with a single, the whole thing as a single bundle, or you can take and repair them separately as 2 different bundles. So a patient with an ACL tear who is a candidate for operative treatment, how would you manage him? You look at the length of the tibial ACL stump at the surgery. If it is proximal, when we say proximal, that means that particular proximal portion of the ACL remnant is able to contact the anatomical spot on the femoral side with or without the suture. You go ahead and do a primary repair with suturing, add microfracture of the notch in order to increase the possibility of healing. If it is less than 50% of the ACL length that is remaining, then you probably go ahead and do an ACL reconstruction, but try and retain the tibial ACL remnant. And if in case it is a mid-substance tear in which 50% of the tibial stump is left, suture can be placed into that particular tissue. Then you have 2 things, something which is now being done fairly commonly, and we are just waiting for the results, is the Baer technique, where you have a bridge enhanced ACL repair with a scaffold. You fill the gap in between the torn ligament and the femur and for a good repair. But this is probably still under a little study, and we'd have to wait for those results. Personally, I do not have any experience with that. What is the use of internal brace? Should we or should we not add? Here, as you can see, is primarily you can see a part of the internal brace which we have. This is the MRI of a patient almost 4 years in whom an ACL reconstruction has been done along with an internal brace. What is basically literature telling you is that it is the failure rate with enhanced with an augmentation with an internal brace is probably better than not without a brace. So internal brace certainly is supposed to help in terms of preventing the failures of this particular repair. Now, there are various ways, as I said, in which a repair and augmentation can be done. So this is one of the methods by which I will quickly go through the videos. We take the Bunnell stitches in this particular fashion. And after you've taken the Bunnell stitches, you can incorporate the tape into the device and get the tape down so that you have a augmentation of your ACL repair with the tape. The other method by which you can, increase the possibility of healing and taking advantage of the full collagen tissue is to go through the substance of the remnant, take stitches on the remnant, and then you can do your normal ACL reconstruction so that the entire remnant is also under tension. You cannot have a remnant which is just falling down, and you cannot expect that particular collagen tissue which is fallen down to repair on its own or provide any type of stability. It needs to be under tension. And that tension, if it is equal to that which is provided by your ACL reconstruction, then we know that particular thing is going to help you out. So either you can go through the substance depending upon the type of remnant that you have, or you can go lateral to it after having done ACL reconstruction with a smaller graft, depending upon the amount of remnant that you have. Incorporate both of them into the same fixation device on the femoral side. Sometimes you come across cases such as these in which there is an avulsion more from the tibial side, which tends to get attached onto the anterior horn of the lateral meniscus. And when such a thing occurs, this is what we've done. It's not very common. You probably see this in probably less than 1% of cases. You do a Bunnell stitch like we've done over here, take full control of the entire remnant tissue, release the remnant tissue from its attachment onto the anterior horn of the lateral meniscus without cutting the anterior horn of the meniscus. And after having done that, okay, you can then, here in this particular case, you're not too sure about its proximal attachment. So obviously we did an ACL reconstruction with a smaller sort of a graft and took the stitches of the remnant both onto the tibial as well as onto the femoral side. So you had a nice, good portion of your enhanced ACL reconstruction with the entire remnant under tension, both on the femoral as well as on the tibial side. So these are various ways by which one can utilize the remnant. The next question is, in which patients would you do? Is age a limit? No, age is definitely not a limit as far as today our recommendation is concerned. Obviously, we are doing it in only proximal tears, which are Sherman 1 and 2, partial tears. We've already mentioned that you require sufficient length and quality of tissue so that it can take the stitches, the length, so that you can get it back to the femur. It should be relatively acute. You can do it in chronic, provided you have the entire remnant with good quality tissue fallen on the PCL, which you can release it off, or the one that you saw in the previous case where it is attached onto the anterior horn of the lateral meniscus. And obviously, you're looking at essentially isolated tears. You're not going to do this in revision surgeries. You're not going to do this where there is a poor tissue quality or where there is a retraction of tissue or Sherman 3, 4, etc. So remember that ACL is a living tissue, but this is not the only tissue that contributes towards the rotatory stability of the knee. You got to obviously address the other tissues too. You got to basically repair after only a proper clinical and radiological examination, but the final decision is going to be on table depending upon the quality of tissue. You got to look at the type of patient on whom you're doing, what is his daily activity, what is his compliance, how well he is, and how slowly he's going to do his rehab activities. We know that the results are worse in younger athletic population. And we've got a couple of papers in order to show that the younger the person, 21 or younger, the failure rates are much higher. And obviously, this is because of the level of activity that these patients are exposed to. What are the advantages? Obviously, it is minimally invasive. It maintains the native biology, preserves the kinematics, and therefore the chances of distal OA is sort of reduced. And at the end of the day, you do not burn any bridges. You can always do an ACL reconstruction if it fails, but this is something that you got to basically discuss with the patient in detail. What about the results as in terms of return to sports? Most studies in more than 2-year-old follow-up in 85%. However, if you look at the pre-injury level of activity, it's only 60%, which is probably equal to that of an ACL reconstruction. So you've got to select your patients properly. don't expect them to get back to their pre-injury levels of activity. So coming back to our patient whom we had done in 2016 or 17, which is more than 4 years follow-up. This was his pre-op. This is the MRI, say 3 months post-op. This was his MRI 2.5 years post-op. And this is his 4-year-old MRI, which shows a fairly good integration of that ACL tissue. So, the chances of you being able to repair and get a good result is fairly high, provided you know how to select your patients. So this is a 3 months follow-up. This is pre-op. That's post-op at 3 months. This is another patient, 17-month follow-up. Okay, this is pre-op. That's post-op. That is 17-month post. And this is 18 months. So we have quite a few patients on whom we've done this type of a study. And the latest editorial commentary as far as the Journal of Bone Arthroscopy and Related Surgery, you can repair the anterior cruciate ligament when you can. You add suture tape augmentation and basically dress it for success. However, you've got to have a suitable candidate with only proximal avulsion. You have to have suitable tissue. You need to have a solid stump. It should be reducible and should have a tissue quality that can hold your sutures. Thank you.